Buenos días a todos y a todas. Es un honor participar hoy en esta mesa en la que reflexionaremos sobre los retos del sector maíz tras la materia.
Let's talk about the effects of the pandemic with experts. Thank you, MW, for inviting our input with big experts today with me. Thank you. We go through a climactic time changing the way we work, the way we move, the way we work, the way we relate. As long as we don't find a fixture for COVID, which is not the case now, the worst hit industry by COVID-related caps is the MICE sector. Sorry, we can't listen to the lady. 20% of tourists traveling around the world did it for business reasons. Therefore, for towns, it is a source of income. MICE tourism accounts for 2.5 billion euros, at least in Spain. This has been changed by COVID. We don't have official figures, but we know we had to re-engineer ourselves in record time because we must carry on working to find places to launch new products. All this happens in these big meetings, summits. We, Consorcio de la Zona Franca de Barcelona, which I run, we know we must do something to reset our economy. How? Creating opportunities for business generation to fix the effects of the pandemic. That's why we work on digitalization. We speed it up. So in March, we conceived a new, innovative, disruptive event, a digital platform with an attendance of some 11,000, based on artificial intelligence and digital networking. We created that for an event, Barcelona Business Week, that led to 1,400 relations, network cases. Now we have all the tools to innovate. This is one of the most important topics in our debate now. Be new, the event was a success. It is a big platform for economic resuscitation that adds to Barcelona Meeting Point, Salón de Congresos de la Zona Franca Barcelona, and other similar events. We wanted to hold and expand it. Versus this backdrop, let's dwell on digitalization versus conventional formats, safety, security agendas, and challenges faced by the industry. Next, let me give the floor to experts with me in this panel to dwell on these issues. First, let me introduce Kai Hattendorf, Managing Director and CEO of the Global Association of the Exhibition Industry. The World Association of the Exhibition Industry you're acquainted with, accounting for more than 50,000 professionals in 80 countries, honorary chair of the Council of Joint Meetings, a consortium serving the Congress industry. Kai Hattendorf couldn't be with us, but we have a video featuring him and his speech. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. I'm speaking to you today as we have just wrapped up our global annual congress at UFI. We held it online this year and not on site as planned in Muscat, Oman. So just like your meeting, we also had to adapt because of COVID. Now, first cases of this virus appeared around a year ago now in China, and by now the pandemic is definitely defining how we operate. Economies are in recession, societies are challenged, whole industry sectors are under pressure in a way we couldn't imagine a year ago. The events industry was one of the first sectors to be severely affected, and many fear that we will be among the very last ones to reopen. But let me share a very clear message with you today. A message that we share with policymakers, with authorities all around the world, and a message that has been understood by many governments already. Here it is. We as an industry, we are not part of the problem that COVID is presenting us with. Rather, we are a critical part of the solution. Meeting places and marketplaces are what we are building and operating. And every sector, every industry needs these meeting places and marketplaces to bounce back after the pandemic. We need, and frankly, we deserve the support from governments now through the pandemic. Our industry is defined by many small and medium enterprises, by many family businesses. Many of them have gone without revenues now for months, and we will need them and their services and skills on the other side of the pandemic. There's a lot to win for cities, for destinations from this. And as the global business events community, we don't only say that, but we can prove that. Now, I currently have the honor to also serve as the president of the Joint Meetings Industry Council, JMIC. And there we have put together 15 ways that cities and destinations and societies can create strategic advantages for their economic recovery and renewal using business events. If you're interested in the details, the publication is out on the JMIC website. Reach out to me and I'll be happy to point you that way. Barcelona, where you're having this event today, actually is a great example for this. Just look at the positive impact that the Mobile World Congress is having on your city. It is driving the evolution of a whole ecosystem of institutions and ideas around mobile technology in and around the city of Barcelona. Actually, a friend of our family, she moved to Barcelona after finishing high school to study arts with a focus on digital design, a university course that did not exist a few years back in Barcelona. But will this function, this role of business events change because of the pandemic? Will digital technology reduce the need for all of us to meet in person, face to face? Again, the answer, as we see it, is very simple. It will not. A few weeks back, we released UFI research based on almost 10,000 interviews with professionals from around the world who exhibit at trade shows or who travel to attend them as buyers. And they all say, without face-to-face, they are missing out. That digital helps them right now to stay connected, but that it simply does not replace having a real meeting. And they expect their spending into the marketing channel of business events to bounce back very fast over 1 or 2 show and event cycles. So business will bounce back. Business events will bounce back. But, and of course, they will be different. They have to evolve as they have always done. Everyone now talks about hybrid events, about a blend of on-site and online, being what we need to build for the future. Honestly, the vast majority of trade shows, conferences, congresses, they have been hybrid for years, offering more and more services and connections through digital technology delivered by smartphones and through digital platforms. COVID will fast-track evolution here, and that is exciting as it makes events more accessible and helps us all to advance on the important task of making our industry ever more sustainable in the way we operate. So let me sum up and leave you with my 3 core beliefs after living for almost 1 year with COVID. First, this too will pass and our industry will bounce back better. Second, our sector is the fastest of all fast tracks to boost economic recovery after COVID, and governments are seeing that. And last, yes, we will implement more and better digital elements and services and blend them into events of all kinds that we are running. Thank you for your attention. Stay well, stay healthy, and I hope to see many of you again soon, somewhere face to face.
Thank you very much and stay safe too. Nos acompaña también Joan Puchal.
Joan Puchal Currently, General Secretary of the Spanish Trade Fairs Association, more than 35 years in this arena, namely in management jobs in Feria de Valencia. He teaches marketing at the SIC Business Marketing School Valencia, PhD, and MAB in Business Administration, Valencia University. He's attended more than 30 events, and he's been an active member in various industry associations. He's been in the Fair of the Mediterranean in 1995, that extinguished some years later, but brought together trade fair organizations in North and the South. They realized how trade fairs work in many countries, serving their economies, facilitating business B2B. Next, Eli Risks, President of Lebanese Exhibition and Conference Association, Chair of the Lebanese Element Commission, more than 40 years experience in the arena of big events in Lebanon. Next, Hind Sidhi, Managing Director of iConferences Morocco, a leader company in arranging B2B events in French-speaking Africa. It's the platform where the potential of Africa has been acknowledged in order to promote recovery of emerging African markets. It brings together the main government players, public administrations, corporations, investors, and other professionals to share their knowledge, specific knowledge, and benefit from practical improvements and networking opportunities. Next, Mr. Zapatero, International Business Director, Fira de Barcelona, member of the board of Fira de Barcelona. The Trade Fair of Barcelona welcoming 100 theme congresses. His career has been set on event organization domestically and abroad. He's been recently elected chair of the Association of Trade Fair Facilities. That's more welcome, Ricard, congratulations. Next, Francesc Carrió, for 16 years, CEO of Read and Elementary Exhibitions. He's been my first boss, my first mentor. Currently, he is retired. He coordinates and teaches the Master of Event Organization of the University of Barcelona, former advisor to Compactel Technical Transnational Company. Thank you very much for showing up. The floor goes to Joan Puchalt. Good afternoon. Thank you, Escame, for inviting my input to this conference. Thank you for letting me share the status of trade fairs in Spain. Let me get set on this business that showcases the status of the Mediterranean. Some figures to start with that may be interesting for you in the audience. Concerning Spain, some 600 trade fairs are conducted every year, providing for 82,000 exhibiting companies and 10 million attendants. Regional trade fairs, domestic, international trade fairs, with public attendance, with professionals, mixed trade fairs for consumer goods, services, or investment goods. Trade fairs account for all businesses we may think of currently. Recently, let me add that the business had magnificent performance data concerning number of exhibitors, attendance number, and rented surface, rented facilities. The situation has been changed because of COVID recently over the last year, according to UFI data represented by Mr. Hattendorf on video. World Trade Fair business implies some 0.3 trillion euros and an input of 167 billion euros to the world GDP, generating 3.2 employments. The company conducted a survey in early 2020. Offshore Economics is the name of it, with this data. Annual generation of wealth, 13 billion euros in Spain, direct and indirect induced impact. Altogether, this translates into some 6.5 billion euros that go to the GDP, more than 0.1 million jobs generated. Some studies tell as well that physical attendance of visitors from MICE sector generates 35% plus versus traditional tourists, and it hits many businesses that are benefited by congresses, symposia, trade fairs, i.e. hotels, restaurants, catering, travel agencies, cargo shipping, translators, interpreters, stewardesses, sound engineering, visual engineering, printing shops, marketing companies, maintenance, groundskeeping companies, car rentals, security officers that are benefited by trade fairs, events, and congresses. Especially, let me tell you that IFEMA, a partner of ours, recently published its impact figures, performance figures. IFEMA is a case similar to Fira de Barcelona's, the two biggest trade fair operators in Spain, both of them. It published that the annual economic impact accounts for 5.1 billion euros, accounting for 3.8% of the GDP of Madrid. And 2.2% of the GDP of Madrid's self-government. Generation of employment by events accounts annually for some 39,000 jobs a year. Let me add that Spain is one of the first countries in the world as to congresses and symposia. According to ICA, the International Association of Conferences and Symposia, Spain ranks second in 2019 in the ranking according to a number of attendance to international congresses, 349,000 delegates, only topped by USA, and above France and Germany. Barcelona and Madrid are the cities that rank the first ones in the world because of number of attendance, first and third, together with Paris, and above other relevant towns, i.e. Lisbon, Vienna, Berlin, London, Milan, Amsterdam, Copenhagen. Spain is salient in Congress organization. The current status, what we've been through these months. Let's say that MICE activities stopped in March 100% after the alarm state. Various self-governments started to regulate for slowly opening up the agenda again. That led to a specific celebration of some face-to-face trade fairs that in character were regional or domestic, never international, because all international trade fairs stopped or were adjourned or are cancelled to 2021, 2022 in some cases. Let's say that fares for year 2020 as scheduled decreased to 25% over the total scheduled.
Para muchas empresas y para muchas organizaciones una situación muy complicada, como pueden entender, al tiempo que habrá disminuido el impacto de forma proporcional a esta ausencia de actividad. Y por otra parte se habrá limitado o se habrá anulado las posibilidades de hacer negocios a las muchas empresas que participan anualmente en dichos eventos. ¿Qué está haciendo el sector? Bueno, ¿qué hemos hecho en el sector o cómo hemos vivido esta situación dentro de nuestra asociación? Pues bueno, ha servido para que los distintos miembros de la Asociación de Ferias Españolas hayan podido intercambiar información, experiencias, hayan podido colaborar entre ellos, aunque sean de alguna manera competidores. Y aprovechamos también para diseñar un protocolo que permitiera funcionar cuando esta actividad ha podido otra vez llevarse a cabo. Esto implica una serie de recomendaciones, una serie de pautas que, junto con las sugerencias de otras organizaciones internacionales de ferias, nos ha permitido diseñar estos protocolos a nivel individual que han servido para las empresas transmitirles a sus clientes, a los organizadores, a los visitantes, cómo tiene que ser el funcionamiento dentro de las ferias cuando éstas se activan. Es decir, con todas las medidas que podemos imaginar, mascarillas, gel hidroalcohólico, controles de temperatura, mamparas, señalética, etcétera, etcétera. A su vez, las ferias, por sus dimensiones, permiten esta seguridad o cuasi seguridad dentro del mundo de la actividad ferial y permiten también igualmente una trazabilidad nominal de las personas que participan o que asisten a las ferias habitualmente. Las organizaciones feriales, además, en todo este tiempo no han estado paradas. Algunas se han convertido en hospitales de campaña, en albergues para personas sin techo, en cocinas para los más desfavorecidos o incluso en almacenes de material sanitario. La mayoría, además, siguen trabajando en el diseño de sus ferias y congresos cuando éstas puedan volver a activarse. Es decir, no han estado, como digo, no han estado quietas. Están generando nuevas ferias que se están anunciando ya para 2021. Se volverán a celebrar las ferias que han tenido mucho éxito también en estos últimos años, como las que miran hacia el futuro. Algunas se han mencionado anteriormente, como las ferias relacionadas con las ciudades inteligentes o las ciudades verdes, el Smart Mobility, el Internet de las cosas. También, como en muchos otros sectores, esta situación nos está sirviendo para reflexionar y para abordar sobre las cuestiones relativas al funcionamiento de la actividad ferial y cómo puede mejorarse, cómo podemos aportar mayor valor a nuestros usuarios, a las empresas y a los visitantes. Por ejemplo, brindando más oportunidades de networking, promoviendo las entrevistas concertadas con antelación entre expositores y visitantes, incorporando nuevas tecnologías y nuevas aplicaciones, o realizando conjuntamente la parte expositiva con la parte congresual, como antes nos decía el representante de UFI. La industria ferial quisiera que las ferias presenciales volvieran a la normalidad lo antes posible. Y los usuarios también. Como antes recordaba Kai Hattendorf, en un reciente estudio realizado por Explore, los expositores y visitantes manifestaban mayoritariamente su deseo de volver a los eventos face to face, a los eventos cara a cara, prácticamente un 80% de porcentaje sobre el total. Muchas de estas ferias, como antes también se ha referido, se han transformado en virtuales o en híbridas. Ello significa un gran esfuerzo también para las organizaciones en tener que dotarse de herramientas que están acelerando su proceso de digitalización, es decir, a través de plataformas digitales, y diseñando un futuro más útil y más provechoso para los usuarios de las ferias, con mayor proyección y mayor alcance. El concepto de feria híbrida, es decir, ferias presenciales con actividades virtuales complementarias, supone dar una respuesta temporal a una situación totalmente excepcional. Pero hay cierta convicción generalizada de que esta nueva modalidad de feria continuará en el futuro, ya que ofrece dos ventajas. Por un lado, poder prolongar la feria virtualmente mucho más allá de la actividad presencial, y por otro, el poder llegar a una audiencia mucho más amplia, es decir, a las personas que no han podido viajar o no pueden viajar a esa feria presencial desde otras ciudades o países por algún motivo. La digitalización es, por tanto, uno de los retos relevantes que aborda la industria ferial en este momento, la industria de eventos, junto con la sostenibilidad. Y a pesar de tratarse de un sector maduro y muy competitivo, el número de ferias sigue aumentando año tras año y surgen ferias más especializadas y adaptadas a las nuevas generaciones de productos y de servicios. Podemos ver también, por otra parte, que los sectores tecnológicos podrían optar por herramientas digitales, pero siguen apostando por las ferias presenciales, como ocurre con el caso del Mobile World Congress, que todos conocemos, o las ferias de robótica, o las de drones, que están surgiendo en los últimos años, o las de vehículos eléctricos. A pesar de este proceso tecnológico digital, las ferias siguen demostrando su poder de comunicación y de contacto, permitiendo a las empresas ser más visibles, dado que hoy en día está todo en Internet, pero a veces cuesta diferenciar unas empresas de otras hasta que se tangibiliza su existencia y su oferta comercial a través de su participación en una o más ferias comerciales. Por otro lado, observamos también que las ferias han venido acortando su duración en los últimos años, reduciendo costes y ayudando a las empresas expositoras igualmente a recortar sus inversiones. Otra tendencia destacable es la que supone la mayor utilización de la tecnología. Iremos viendo cómo poco a poco se van incorporando a las ferias, por ejemplo, la realidad virtual o la inteligencia artificial, a través de nuevas aplicaciones, reconocimiento facial, predicciones de tráfico, asistentes personales, pronósticos de ventas, smart cities, etc. ¿Qué papel pueden desempeñar? Era una de las preguntas que nos formulaban al programar este evento. ¿Qué papel pueden desempeñar los eventos MAIS en la promoción de los destinos? Bueno, además de la presencia de las ciudades, países y organizaciones dentro de las ferias especializadas al efecto, como son Fitur o World Travel Market en Londres, o ITB de Berlín, o BIT de Milán, IBTM en Barcelona o IMEX en Frankfurt, todo evento profesional suele conllevar además la visita y el conocimiento de la riqueza y de la singularidad del destino, es decir, de su cultura, de su gastronomía, de su clima, de su gente, de sus infraestructuras hoteleras o de otra índole. lo que se traduce en una promoción directa, ¿no? En una promoción cara a cara, una promoción inmediata en las personas que realizan este tipo de visitas hacia sus familiares para volver otra vez a visitar la ciudad o hacia otros conocidos a través de la transmisión de las experiencias que se reciben. Por último, en todo el mundo, me gustaría destacar que en todo el mundo y el área del Mediterráneo no es una excepción, se confía y se trabaja para que las ferias y otros eventos puedan celebrarse con normalidad, como todos sabemos. Las ferias son de gran ayuda para los sectores económicos, pues facilitan la difusión y el conocimiento de los nuevos productos y servicios en condiciones favorables para cerrar negocios y acuerdos entre proveedores y clientes. También hemos visto tienen un elevado impacto económico en el entorno y por ello confiamos en que esta vuelta a la normalidad se produzca cuanto antes. Muchísimas gracias a todos por la audiencia.
Muchas gracias, Juan, y realmente han sido 10 minutos exactos. Les quiero recordar las preguntas que nos formulamos en este debate, que son ¿cuáles son los principales retos a los que se enfrenta el sector de los eventos y exposiciones tras el impacto de la COVID-19? ¿Cuáles son las principales inversiones en las que se enfrenta el sector para adaptarse a las actuales circunstancias? ¿Nos enfrentamos a un futuro de eventos digitales? ¿Cómo pueden garantizar los salones tradicionales la seguridad sanitaria? ¿Qué oportunidades presentan los cambios que está abordando el sector? Y ahora pasamos la palabra a Ellie Reeds. Please, Ellie, 10 minutes.
Thank you very much. Welcome to this conference. Our industry is MICE, meeting, incentive, conferences, exhibitions. There is no doubt that meeting needs a face-to-face and nothing replaces a handshake. The COVID-19, as we all know, ladies and gentlemen, has had a direct impact, negative impact on our industry worldwide. COVID-19 has had a negative impact on the global economy, has had a negative impact on tourism industry, has had a negative impact on all kind of stakeholders and shareholders of our industry. That means now it gives us the chance this year to all of us communicate and get together to think and plan how we are going to recover and how we are going to reboost our industry after post-COVID-19. Now, if we want to look at all the world changes, the changes in the consumer behavior that we have to take into consideration. Why? Because what we are is we are organizers of a platform between buyers and sellers in our exhibitions. We are organizers of a platform between conferences and people who has to say something and people who wants to listen to what these people has to say. We are in events organizing platforms for people who wants to perform and some audiences who wants to watch. So our role is a medium between people who has a certain need and the others, and we help connecting people. Now, would people stop wanting the need to buy? No. Would people want to stop the need to sell or to say something, or people want to stop to listen? Definitely not. So COVID-19 will not prevent people anymore from really wants to buy or sell and need to discuss. But what might change is the format, is the platform, the transformation that we are witnessing now with the new introduction of the virtual intelligence and the artificial intelligence. We can no longer ignore now the way the new technology is influencing our consumer behavior, our lifestyle. Now, we see that people used to go to movie theater to watch a movie, but they still want to watch a movie, they watch it on Netflix. People still want to buy goods. Instead of going to some retail store, they do it online. So the need is still there. People still want to read the news, but instead maybe of buying a newspaper on printed paper, they get the news via online. So we have to be smart enough to understand what are the people need and requirement and adjust our platforms in such a way. Because I believe, ladies and gentlemen, after COVID-19, people don't need to be smarter or stronger. They need to have the ability to adapt to changes. This is the surviving period, or this is the new era. Which company of us will have the ability to adapt to changes and to change the platform or to the model of how we present our trade shows. There is no doubt that B2B events or trade shows will be easier to recover than the B2C, than the consumer show. Because our industry not only depend on us, organizers or venue or suppliers or stakeholders, it depends on government, on regularities, on travel safety, on how people are going to travel and adapt to travel again after COVID-19. It depends also on how our various economical industries are going to recover from the global crisis that COVID-19 had the impact on the industry. So I can foresee a period of 3 to 5 years for this industry, our industry, to adapt again, to recover again, and to have a new shape and form. New shape and form is such what I can foresee easily. For example, on-site registration. I think online registration will replace the on-site registration, but we still need to have pre-registration to enter a show. I think now the show catalog, the printing, so many printing material can be reduced to electronic brochures, electronic business cards, but still people has to go and meet and sit and stand. On B2B shows, it will be safer because you need on quantity of visitor, not quality of visitor. Whatever rules and regulation are going to be imposed post-COVID-19, a trade show can, for example, has 2,000, 3,000 visitors with matching facility to matchmaking over on the website. So they will have a pre-arranged meetings with the buyers and sellers. It's easier to control than B2C. So I can foresee that the trade shows will be faster and easier to recap and recover than the consumer show. Then, as I said, we have to adopt virtual and artificial intelligence in our businesses and see how we can transform and make an evolution in our industry in order to remain a need and in order to stay as a need for the people to come to us when they need to connect or they need to communicate. Because the problem in our industry, as I said, depends on so many external factors that we have no control over. For example, before COVID-19, we used to take the flight from Lebanon to Dubai in the morning, go to meetings, and then come back in the evening. But now with the technology, the 5G technology, we got used to Zooming, we got used to online meeting, then I think certain business travels will be reduced. I don't feel that after COVID-19, I'll have the need to take the plane in the morning, go for one meeting and come back. We can do it online. So the amount of business travels, I think, are going to be reduced because people can communicate faster via online. But this will not affect that the people need to go and visit a trade show in order to make business deals. This will not affect the need to go and attend to a conference or attend to a concert or to an event to watch a star or to perform a certain kind of events. It's going to take time, yes. We need also to change the profile. Certain profiles maybe will no longer be needed because the whole economy is changing. There are some profiles or some industries are going to disappear to be replaced by others. Like we have witnessed in the early 20th century, in the early 19th, there was a tremendous transformation from the Industrial Revolution, from the Agricultural Revolution to Industrial Revolution. So our grandparents have witnessed maybe the era of transformation in the transportation, in the telecommunication, and everything that people communicate. Now we are witnessing the same era, the same changes, because I believe very soon we will have electrical cars. We will no longer need diesel required cars or oil gas required cars. We will have self-driven cars. Now in Barcelona, they are launching in Dubai 2020, I heard, self-driven cars. So the format of business is transforming. Even before COVID-19, we have witnessed that the largest hotel chain in the world is a company that does not have or own one single room, which is Airbnb. The largest taxi in the world is the company that doesn't own any single taxi, which is Uber. So we have started to witness a change in the format of certain businesses. There is no doubt that the MICE industry has to adapt. The MICE industry, we have to be smart enough or have the flexibility enough to understand the kind of changes and embed with our platforms, the artificial intelligence, the virtual intelligence. We have to use more digital way of marketing, because even the advertising industry has changed from the traditional above the line ways. Maybe now they are more social media, more below the line, more using influencers, more bloggers, but still people need to advertise. But this is what we have to expect in the post-COVID-19 3 to 5 years, until our industry is going to evolve, to transform, and co-op and embed more artificial and virtual intelligence in our exhibitions. Thank you very much for listening.
Many thanks, Ili. Bueno, la conclusión que hacemos de
The conclusion of Ellie's intervention is the adaptation to the change. We are in a full transformation, as all panelists have said, as the industrial revolution. Thank you very much. We continue with Hind Sidki. Hind, vous avez 10 minutes.
Good afternoon. First of all, thank you very much for your invitation. I'm delighted to be with you. And before I start, I'd like to shed light on iConference, which is an African stakeholder in B2B conferences, so for sub-Saharan conferences, especially in Morocco. So our activities are creating conferences targeting human-size conferences, so we're not in the size of fairs, but we target African institutions and also international private stakeholders. So we support their sector-based dynamics with conferences, and we create professional meetings, annual meetings to promote exchanges and structuring partnerships in Africa, especially in several capital cities of Africa. I must say that this COVID-19 pandemic has paralyzed us. We all agreed, we all had to really face the most unprecedented situation in our history. It was a very difficult situation to foresee. And so looking at this major crisis, it forced us to rethink the sustainability of our industry and its resilience in the next few months and years even. We are experiencing a major transition and the end of a cycle. And our industry is being transformed. We are the witnesses of this transformation. Maybe this is the most radical transformation any industry has experienced. The scaling up of digitalization, big data, online conferences. I mean, this has changed the industry in record time. I know that these tools have always existed, but they were not so mainstream, and especially in the African context. I am speaking on behalf of this African reality, which is a different context. So in Africa, we host many different events. We host a lot of important meetings, and this scaling up of digitalization is new, but it was actually put in place very quickly. I must say that this is one of the skills that we acquired thanks to this COVID crisis. We could see that several stakeholders have responded quite rapidly, relying on 100% digital solutions in order to support the different ecosystems of our sector. there is this need of exchanging, of prospecting into other markets. I mean, this need has always been there. I know that all industries have been affected, and there was a stop in terms of mobilities and traveling and freedom, yes. But there was also this awareness that came about to be of the importance of these meeting platforms and the importance of all these fair events and conferences that contribute to the development of our industry. This need, this necessity has always been here despite the crisis, this need to meet each other. And this adaptation capacity and transformation and reinvention capacity has been tremendous to try and transform ourselves, adapt ourselves with the new technological tools. So some stakeholders have been able to continue and work, and I'd like to say that I agree with what Ellie said. B2B conferences have sort of adapted themselves. It was more accessible than for larger events or larger fairs. It was important, it has been important to keep this contact with the network, relying on digital tools, and make sure that networking is still possible for customers and clients, thanks to virtual technologies and thanks to artificial intelligence solutions and other digital solutions that have been implemented by different stakeholders to make sure that we continue on have meetings, B2B meetings, international meetings. Or as it was a way to actually raise the awareness of our role as organizers and platform creators, platforms for debates and exchanges, and they contribute to actually develop other sectors, other industries. I think the biggest fear was in terms of time. We wanted to overcome quite quickly the situation. We had to make sure that we would beat this fear of meeting others. I mean, it is a deeply human necessity. We are all convinced that this crisis will pass away. But we also know that we received different lessons and teachings. Adaptation strength is key to our resilience, and it's one of the lessons we learned from this COVID-19 pandemic, and we've acquired new skills. Well, we are acquiring new skills quite quickly, quite swiftly, in order to be ready to respond to new needs coming up in this market, new needs coming from customers, consumers. I think we can say this is the strength that we can draw from this experience. Digital transformation, networks, artificial intelligence have all played a major role, and they will continue and play a role in the future, a more strategic role in our industry. I should say that we are now in the digital era, and it came about to be in order to meet the requirements of the consumers of our industry. We know that human contact and face-to-face interaction will never be substituted or replaced by these tools, but we will provide new dimensions to our events. We will increase our audiences, will create new possibilities to meet apart from the physical meetings, and will give extra momentum to our industry. something that is coming today. We understood this. This was there was an acceleration of this process across the world. We know that we'll overcome this phase and will be stronger after this. We know that recovering all the losses, this will take some time. This crisis just put our industry to a standstill, at least at first, and created or generated many damages. So we know that this would be a time-consuming recovery. We know that despite the fact that we'll have many other events coming after the crisis. But we'll come out of this with new imagination, with digital tools, big data, to better answer the needs of the market, to make sure we continue and work. The biggest teaching of all this is that our industry had to meet this major requirement, but also showed its own powerful adaptation. So thank you very much. If you have any question, I'm available. Thank you. Bianca, yes, no, this is what I wanted to say. I haven't used all my 10 minutes, I think.
Très bien, très bien. Concretamente.
Very well. You still have 5 minutes.
Yes, we have learned to be more resilient, and it's true. I completely agree that the mice industry has been the one that has adapted to the change, and we are just looking forward for the future. And we give the floor to Ricard Zapatero. You have 10 minutes. Thank you, Blanca. Thank you very much. I will greet everyone from Barcelona. And there is a saying that said, the gods to condemn to live interesting times. Probably we have been condemned too much time. Those times are too interesting. We in Barcelona exhibition, we might have the honor to have been in the Western world the first suffering the cancellation of a big event in February, 9 months ago. We have cancelled, and we were going to celebrate the Mobile World Congress, which is one of the most important events in the fair world, one of the most important in the technological sector. And we have decided to cancel it, that they were not able to celebrate due to the pandemic, due to the so many people coming from Asia. We have decided that it was not the right time to organize the event. And it was very difficult times, because 2 weeks afterwards we are with the alert states in Europe, and other fairs have been cancelled. We have drawn a lesson. We have drawn a lesson from the fact, first of all, we were shocked, and how to see, how to planify, and to see which doors are open for the future. And not only Barcelona, but in Europe, and our colleagues, as you were saying in your presentation, in the MECA Association of the big fairs, of big exhibitions that we have in Europe, we saw, and then we talking, because it was a tragedy. We said, what are you doing? You said, we are planning before the summer, for the June. And we were talking in the winter. No, we are just planning for September. And what are you doing? I said, no, I'm just planning for the end of the year. So as the news were appearing and all the measures implemented. In Barcelona, for instance, we have done the same as we have already done. Everybody has done it, thinking that in June we were able to organize an event. Afterwards, knowing that it might be in September, And afterwards, thinking right now that it will be for Christmas or for the next year, or next spring is when we are going to have the complete recovery and when we could organize face-to-face events.
This is the business we all are keen on. We think works. Meanwhile, we did things, we had experiences to showcase. In May, we had the first virtual education fair, trade fair, with all suppliers from campuses showcasing their offers for future graduates. This is our first online virtual trade fair, and we learned as we went, as we all did, learning how to start a virtual online trade fair. Next, we started an international trade fair that will benefit from international attendance. We thought that in September we would be able to make it face-to-face. A trade fair living off international attendants who can't fly should be online. That's why we started the Barcelona Bridal Week, the wedding gown, the most important wedding gown trade fair in the world. It was started with a virtual platform, virtual hub, with online shows, and we opened a small window. We were licensed by the authority to do something else. In September, we started the entrepreneurship trade fair, the Barcelona Innovation Forum, the employment trade fair. We applied all safety security agendas, and next we stopped. We carried on online. We had the Smart City last week with a big virtual platform, the Smart City Live, with 20,000 attendants, with successful participation rate, as we did with other events in the world. Because we worked in Barcelona, we arranged virtual events, such as in Mexico, the Latin America Smart City. Next week, we'll do it again in Chile. Our trade fairs over the world have been canceled, excepting in April, we'll start again in China. The Chinese who stopped the world have fixed everything. Since 2019, we started a joint venture with the Chinese, managing trade fair facilities. This started to work business as usual way. We are astonished at how come they work and we can't yet. All that is conducive to my answering your questions, Blanca. What about the challenges when starting everything again anew? The challenges are twofold. First, we all know how relevant, I quote my fellow speakers, MICE business is and how it weighs on economy. Trade fairs are there to help companies and to lever up economy. For that, we need regulation, domestic regulation, European regulation, Mediterranean regulation, and global regulation, providing for trade fairs, which are business summits, should match our policies, providing for shopping malls. If a shopping mall is licensed to open as legally provided for, with caps on capacity, how many people circulate about the facility, if we let them work, trade fair facilities should also work as well, which is not the case now. Many places we all are banned, so to speak. So if a shopping mall can work, a trade fair venue should work as well, since it is more secure than a shopping mall. We can create people, we identify people, we have big facilities, we can keep social distance, we can apply regulations, so on and so forth. Second challenge for us to face, Let's generate trust in the community. The first issue is fixed. We are licensed to carry on working. We are authority licensed for that. Next, let's give trust back to the community. Let's make community trust us again. Companies do need trade fairs, events, they want to do business. The attendants, those who go to the facility, who fly to the facility, to the venue, has to trust us. How? Well, for that purpose, let's start a campaign of fast tests everywhere. Let's test attendance everywhere. For fair trade shows, antigen tests are needed to tell you, sir, you are positive, sorry, you can't proceed. If you are negative, please fly to the trade fair. Work as usual, move about. Don't worry, everyone moving about with you has also tested negative. This goes to the bottom line of trade fairs and the value chain of us working on MICE, on flying, on traveling, on tourism, holiday making, airlines, hotels, restaurants, football stadiums, concert halls, community at large. Everyone should access antigen tests, POCT antigen tests that are getting more and more sophisticated. With a sample of saliva, you get your outcome in a matter of minutes. The vaccine is here to stay. It's a fact, but it is still months until the whole community is immunized. Meanwhile, giving back trust can be speeded up with POCT tests. My answer to the next question: what did we learn from this case? From online trade fairs, events, congresses? The lesson is that virtual online modes of action are here to stay, but are a sort of replacement. Let's be clear about it. We all have started these online trade shows. People attend them because there is no other way to go about it. That's the only thing we could do. Of course, there are things for us to carry on developing, i.e., knowledge exchange, content exchange, conferences, events, symposia, congresses that can be recorded and aired to the world to expand the audience. The real event had in the field can be done. This will be developed further. This will proliferate. This will circulate so that face-to-face trade fairs increase their attendance numbers. Let's find a financial way to make it possible. Don't know whether it is open for everyone, whether it's only open for those who couldn't physically participate and wanted to get registered for it. Everything related to networking in business doing, to what we have, exchanging and get in touch with him or her, have a platform for that. These did exist before us. There are for you many platforms for you to network with people. But the face-to-face meeting, managing who's who to do business, that needs a face-to-face meeting. This can't work online successfully. Doing business implies trust generating, and we are in a business of putting people face-to-face. Only face-to-face creates trust. Purchasing agreements. If I don't know you, it's difficult for me to sign it. It's very difficult for me to do it online if I've not met you before, and I have to sign an agreement, a contract for you. For that purpose, face-to-face meetings will carry on being critical. Will expand, will work in a mixed way, but face-to-face meetings will still be capital. So meetings and trade fairs will be here to stay. Thank you, Ricard. for your zest, for the enthusiasm you convey, for being so conversant with this business. Let's stop off with Mr. Carrillo. 10 minutes, please. Thank you. Good afternoon. My gratitude goes to Ascami for inviting my input to such a prestigious conference. I'm happy to be chaired by Blanca because, indeed, I've been her first mentor, her first teacher. I appreciated her talent. I'm happy to see her in her job performing so successfully, so elegantly. Congratulations on that, Blanca. I am the last one in the restroom. This implies both advantages and disadvantages. Advantages are that my fellow speakers talked so elegantly, I can pass some remarks on it. Let me try to answer the questions. I do agree with my fellow speakers on what they said. In my organization, we defined 20 years ago the mission of an event organizer, an EO, and a trade fair organizer. It applies to both. Someone attends a trade fair because he wants to network, wants to learn. I feel, therefore, that there are three conditions to be met by a trade fair: selling, training, education, and corporations. So my remit, when talking about it, the corporation's remit is that we facilitate contacts, content, and community-making networking to improve on the performance of businesses of both attendants and exhibitors who are in our customership. In any event, there are customers, two types of customers, attendants and exhibitors. Conference attendants and exhibitors sponsoring, funding the event. This is why it is a must for us to organize the event with three purposes in our mind: conducting a meeting between sellers and purchasers, face-to-face, B2B, having a conference with academic events, and looking for times for networking amongst attendants. Thus, we meet these three requirements: trade, education, and corporate performance. This should be done face-to-face. In order to make it perform 100%, it should be face-to-face. ICTs now provide for giving added value to face-to-face meetings. Trade fairs must and will be face-to-face. Next, my question in my mind, in Blanca's mind, in my fellow panelists' mind is, what next? How should we face the future? Let me be wise about it. It's been a shock for us, an unexpected shock that came as a surprise to us. It's been dramatic since it's hit companies that did perform and has disarticulated businesses that were brilliant, that did perform. This is the most severe thing about the pandemic. It's stopped people and businesses that did perform, that made big money to plow it back, and now they are going through miserable times. Recovery will be, I don't know how it will work. I think that next year, except in Asia-Pacific region, Ricard Zapatero told us they've started to work there domestically. They've started very important events and trade fairs with lots of attendance, with crowds of exhibitors and attendants, Europe, North America is still spastic about it. I think that 2021 will be a sort will be poor, and 2022 will imply resuscitated activity for us, resuscitated business. Blanca's question about trends. Trends in the trade fair event business. Before the outbreak, years ago, I realized in the campus with my students, in my master, I teach event organization, that young people are concerned, as I tell my fellow faculty members, that things were changing. Many ways, many approaches to approach the event business, the MIC business was approached after one trade fair you started to work on the next Congress. We always innovate and reinvent since we try to go ahead, to go above the trade in order to meet our customers' needs. They realized there were some strategic trends in the past standing out. I think that first, commitment to sustainability is mandatory. All corporations now are committed to it. Sustainability. In the MIC business, let's avoid waste. Let's manage waste. Let's not accumulate waste. Let's be careful with our settings. Let's use sustainable materials as much as we can. Let's green it up. Next. Let's make up for our CO2 footprint, and let's circulate it, let's showcase it. The media tell that corporations always fight for sustainability of the globe. The same applies to MIC business. We are doing it. There are operational agendas. It is a step forward we must take. Let's intensively use ICTs. Let's use AI to identify customers' needs. Let's customize messages. Let's create links between attendants and exhibitors that should replicate in next editions of the trade fair. I quote my fellow panelists. Let's foster digital events to keep in touch during, before, and post the face-to-face event. Next, my third item. These are strategic items. Let's adjust the supply to the feelings of the new generation, our next customers, our next attendants, exhibitors, participants, sponsors. Let's favor the input of as many exhibitors as we can. They are highly sensitive. I realize it amongst my students. They are sensitive to allowing everyone to input into the fair. I attend trade fairs with them, and they worry that startups, small SMEs can't invest sponsoring a trade fair. Let's find ways to adjust to the new generation's needs. Gender equality. Showcase performing women. There are women in top management jobs. There are more and more women attending trade fairs and exhibiting them. Let's keep women visible, and let's treat women as they deserve, according to their merits. My students tell me that they like to see diversity in trade fair attendance. Let's open up the range of international projection of our events, new trends in hospitality, in catering, always looking for healthcare, healthy food, so on and so forth. Let's update communication. They tell me that currently new generations work on social media with many followers, with many inputs, with storytelling. It's not giving a speech. It's not giving a screed. They tell stories. They do eye contact immediately. Finally, let's create networking, informal networking areas to create communities. I mean, let's have a good ROI for young people who are strong and mind the future. This is the only way to make them feel at ease in events and to make them carry on attending them as visitors, exhibitors, attendants. These trends add to other contemporary ones related to the outbreak. The year we spent with COVID, plus the first semester of year 2021, quote record, will hit us, will originate trends in the business, especially in the value chain. Let's mind suppliers. Unfortunately, purveyors were badly hit, and they will have to re-engineer the business in depth. Unfortunately, some will die and others will pop up. Let's check how we pull them together. Let's mind how we can reach agreements with them for them to start again fit for that. Exhibitors, quote record, trust. We events, congresses sell trust. Trust that on April the 5th next year, we inaugurate the trade fair. This implies trust for exhibitors that has been lost. We have to get it back. Exhibitors, how much they will invest? I'm sure less. Registration times will be postponed. They won't pay so much in advance as they used. Let's get a solution ready for it. Let's factor in that big customers at present need more flexibility from us. A closer relation, a customized relation, mapping events for them. One more idea we should work on. Sponsors. Let's account for ROI cases for them. Visitors, attendants. Can they travel about? I agree on records remarks. Expositors, visitors, exhibitors, visitors, attendants should circulate properly, otherwise they can't show up. Despite the vaccine, we'll have still to go a long way into confidence trust building. Organizers, they were badly hit by the outbreak. There will be mergers, takeovers, acquisitions going on. Salient trends will consolidate. I don't know how, but they will consolidate. We think these are ephemeral current trends that eventually hit events and congresses. Facilities have been empty, unfortunately, for many months. We have to re-engineer them. Let's find out how they must face the future, and perhaps they will all be open to some alliances amongst facilities with organizers. Discriminating organization and management of the facility that hosts the event. In this value chain, these 6 items do matter and are hit by current trends. We should stay ahead of them in a business that I think, as I guess, academically speaking, I'm not dealing with the business, but I am close to it. I'm watching what goes on. I think that this business, as I know, when starting again, will have fewer events. They will be smaller in size, perhaps more domestic in character, less international, more hyper-segmentation, more theme fair trades, it will be costlier, though, because adjusting to protocols, anti-COVID protocols, does generate costs, and perhaps we can increase income because of poor attendance. They will be shorter in time, not to incur in costs we can't afford. There will be an issue with calendar conciliation. The usual dates for each fair have been readjusted. This is an opportunity, however, for our Lebanon fellow panelists in countries with a shorter tradition to catch some events that, because of mobility issues in Europe, can't take place in a European country. Perhaps in North Africa, in the Middle East, in the Eastern Mediterranean, these events may be hosted. Next, accepting these digital changes that are here to stay, that are robust. Last weeks, last months, they're here to stay. I quote my Moroccan fellow speaker. But complementing the trade fair, these digital events and trade fairs capitalize very little, generate little cash, little income. So it's difficult for a business that requires so much promotion and investing in advertising. It's very difficult for us to keep it alive. Facilities are costly to keep up. Only with this sort of virtual trade fairs, the paradigm of the business is changing. Therefore, it is a must for corporations, authorities, to immediately analyze the status of things. We need an organizational, strategic, and technical analysis of the situation as it is right now. And now, I'd like to answer your questions and remarks from the audience. Thank you, Blanca. Thank you, Ricard. Your remarks are very interesting. Next. It's 4:17. It's 8 minutes to go. Now there are many questions in our minds, and many more will pop up. If it is okay with you, let me ask some questions coming from the audience. Let me ask you. These are general questions, only one for Mr. Couchard. My question is, as you said, during the pandemic, many Congress facilities were given alternative use. For instance, hosting the homeless. I do like this initiative. Tell me if there are any similar initiatives in the region. Thank you. Congratulations on your achievements. Thank you for the question. Actually, in Spain, the case I'm acquainted with, it's been a general practice. Congress facilities became field hospitals. At the same time, home for the homeless, hostels for the homeless, as it was the case with Vila Barcelona, a big soup kitchen for the destitute. Other facilities were given to regional authorities to be made into field hospitals, warehouse for medical supplies, healthcare supplies. So many facilities in Spain have played these roles in some specific cases. Now the Chamber of Commerce of Gijón opens back the facility for a field hospital because of the new wave of contagions. This is not over yet. They played a critical role during the lockdown in spring. Now, in some cases, again, they play this role. They've been relevant because these are big places with many resources, many capacity for working, much operational capacity. A FEMA case was very important, had a lot of media buzz. A big hospital with many resources, with much staff supported by the authority and by private investors with many volunteers moving about the place. It did play a critical role. Thank you. I'm sure we are happy with this answer. 2 questions for you to answer. First, tell me whether, if went back to normalcy with the vaccine, online congresses will carry on existing. Second question, how long you think will pass until we make up for losses this year?
¿Quieren ir contestando?
Please answer one by one.
Alternativa o... No sé, Ricard, ¿crees que...
Ricard, do you want to answer? Do you think that when we return to normality, we will keep on organizing online congresses? Yes and no would be my reply. Yes, because they will complement the online congresses with the face-to-face congresses. And no, because when we have the opportunity to face-to-face, we won't organize anymore online. We have had online congresses before the pandemic where people could connect, but the interaction was a very small interaction because online congresses would be a complement of the face-to-face exhibition on the contents. People could be linked, but it will be a complement. Never will replace. And the second question, how much time do we have to last to retrieve? Well, each one makes his calculations, but the forecast of the sector means that in a couple of years, 2022, 2023, thinking that we are going to retake our normal activity as well of thing in May or June of the next year, till the 2023, we will not return to the figures we had before the pandemic. Do you agree what Ricard Zapatero is saying? I would like to just to reply and to rebound, and I would like to be more optimistic. But as the crisis, it has been so tough in many companies, in many corporations, I think we will last a little bit more. We won't return to the situation in 2019. The growth will be gradual growth, and probably in 2024 and 2025, we might be at the situation we were in 2019. More remarks? Someone wants to add anything? If you don't have any remark, I would like...
Yes,
Blanca.
¿Sí? Muy bien.
Yes, go ahead, please.
So I think it's between 3 to 5 years because our industry depends on the global economic recovery. We need the whole economy to recover worldwide so our industry can flourish again. And if there is no, God forbid, global war or no global conflict, because we are seeing tension in so many areas in the Middle East and the Gulf, in between Europe and Turkey and China and America, not before 3 to 5 years or 5 to 7 years until we see this, our industry is recovering again. The challenge will be for small and medium-sized companies, organizers, to how strong they can be financially to be able to survive this hit.
J'aimerais apporter quelque chose et je dirais qu'aussi.
I would like to add that our sector depends on the trust. We really need to rebuild this trust, and the trust means recovering the economy. It's a whole chain. The trust will be the factor that enables the complete recovery of the industry, and the introduction of the vaccine will play a role. The implementation of tests will also make it easier. What's important is that people don't fear the rallies and that the measures are more accessible, and it's crucial that people have trust again into the everyday life. It's our biggest challenge to rebuild trust. It's the biggest challenge of the governments to make citizens trust again.
Sí, bueno, yo...
Blanca, I wanted to give my opinion on this topic, and in this concern, my analysis has been quite strict analysis of the situation and the future trends. But I can say that I am optimistic, and the proof is that China. I have seen the resumes of the colleagues with the exhibitions, crowded and packed of people in this Asia-Pacific area and region. I think that the recovery could be quite quick, as Ricard was saying before. An average between Ricard and Juan, I think that the recovery will take place in 2023. 21 will be very tough. In 22, if we follow the Glovex forecast, it will be good, and the 2023 everything will be relaunched. But seeing what has happened in the Mexico fairs, I'm very optimistic because we need fairs, we need exhibitions, and in a globalized world, and with the current trends, the young people and the women will participate, will attend the exhibitions, and they will have the same shine that they have till last year. Thank you very much. And in order to conclude this table, I would like to summarize the conclusions and the concepts that you have shared as the adaptation to the change, resilience, innovation, regulation, in order to, what Ricard Zapatero said, artificial intelligence, to recover the trust, as all the panelists have said, quick test. The exhibition online won't replace the physical fairs. The models online should be understood how we are able to organize, because it's quite difficult to organize, and I share this idea. The fairs with the strategies presented by Francesca Riot for the commercial change of view and the strategic trends, because we can't forget that this sector has to have an engagement with the sustainability and to set up links among the participants and the attendees, and to adjust to the new generations, because this, at the end of the day, is what the new generations are looking for. We have to have more costs met. We have to plan the protocols. We have to just to figure out the days, and we are in front of a new paradigm. I would like, in the behalf of everyone, to congratulate. It has been a pleasure to share your ideas, your thought. Of course, we have to rethink as we are doing. We have to innovate more than ever. And one of the drivers for the development of the tourism in our countries and our cities should be in front of those changes. Thank you very much for your participation. Thank you.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you.
Merci, Blanca.